To be here as a speaker. First of all, I would like to give my deep thanks to the organizing committee for giving such a great opportunity. Okay, then the topics of my presentation is a desirable approach to establishment of climate change policy. As you know, the climate change is one of the environmental problems. However, in terms of its impact on nature and human society, climate change is on the top among the all of the environmental programs. So here you can see a small map. I am from Jeju. I think you can see a Jeju, an island between mainland of Korea and Japan. So this is the whole outline of my presentation today. The first one is there are some agents responding to climate change. Who are they? I would like to introduce. And there are some concepts related to policy, for example, strategy, policy, measure, like that. Then, as the main point of this presentation, a desirable approach. Then the desirable approach I would like to suggest at least four steps. The first one is we have to identify, in order to establish the climate change policy, we have to identify the vulnerable sector to climate change. Next, deforming the components of policy, and the third step, introduction of government system in decision-making process. And we have to analyze the policy effectiveness. Okay. Then the first chapter, the agent responding to climate change, at least five. The first one is national or local government. As all of you know, the government has a responsibility to launch climate change strategy, policy, adaptation, and mitigation. Enterprise, I think enterprise is one of the major contributors to climate change because the enterprise emit lots of pollutions in the process of resource extract and the process of goods and services and distributing process of the goods and services like that. So they are the major contributor to climate change. However, at the moment, the enterprise, they are faced with a great risk. This means the enterprise is also a sacrifice from the climate change. So in order to overcome this one, at the moment, the enterprise launched green management in order to improve eco-efficiency through saving resources and energy and improving resources and energy efficient. In this sense, enterprise is also an agent responding to climate change. Civil organization, particularly environmental NGO, they through environmental movement, uh, they are also, we can say, an agent responding to climate change. Citizens, uh, most of the citizens are trying to do environmental friendly behavior in everyday life. In this sense, citizens are also agents responding to climate change. At the global level, as you know, UNFCCC is the agent responding to climate change. Okay, then the policy is regarded to government. So my presentation will be confined to the policy by government. Then the concept with vision, objective, goal, strategy, policy, measure. They are different terminologies. However, they are interrelated in relation to the policies. So we do not have enough time. So I would like to skip a detailed explanation about those terminologies. Okay, the main points, as I have mentioned before I start the presentation, in order to establish the climate change policy, the first stage, we have to identify the vulnerability to climate change. Second, then forming the component of policy. Third, introduction of governance. Fourth, analyzing policy effectiveness. Okay, then this is the first step, identifying the vulnerability. As we know, human activities. This side is the source of greenhouse gas emission. Then this is a cause. Writing the climate change. In this box, we have some terminologies. The climate change, then every country or even the every local in a country are exposed to climate change, all right? Then, however, the real impact here, real impact of climate change is different by country or by local region. In a country, even though all of them are exposed to the same climate change, because there is one important variable. It is the sensitivity to climate change between exposure to climate change and the real impact. All right. For example, the Korea and Japan are exposed to the same climate change. However, real impact is different between the two countries because Japan and Korea has different sensitivity to climate change. So the sensitivity is composed of two categories. One is natural adaptation, the other one is social adaptation. So then the policy should be developed on the basis of real impact, not the climate change, the state of climate change, real impact. Okay, then the first stage, we have to assess the vulnerability. Based on that, we can establish the policy. Then the policy can be applied to two different ways. One is applicable to the factors in this box. The other one is the human activities as the source of greenhouse gas emissions. So as we know, this side we call mitigation policy. The policy applies to the factors in this box we call adaptation policy. All right, this is the whole out what's the adaptation policy and mitigation policies. The differences I've specified. Then we can, for example, in Korea, for example, we identified 10 sectors as the vulnerable sector to climate change. Then the 10 sectors should be the target for launching climate change policy. Then we have to establish the goals by the vulnerable sector. For example, how much to reduce of greenhouse gas emission by the sector. and how to adapt to the change the climate like that. Then we have to establish the means in order to achieve the goal we have set up. For example, reduction the goals, the means, what means to adapt for achieving the goal. Then the means would be the policy. For example, reduction of energy use. This is a means, okay? Development of technology, improvement of energy efficiency, carbon capture, carbon storage, carbon sequestration, carbon utilization, like that. And also the supply of new and renewable energy and the change in the existing energy market. So the means we have developed in order to achieve the goals. Then next, when we decide the means as a policy, then there are so many different ways to develop the policies. However, if a government has a responsibility to develop the policies. However, if the government develop and policies and launch them, then we have lots of social conflict in the process of implementing the policies, because the policies developed by government sometimes has different interests with other social organizations. Therefore, if we introduce a governance system in the decision-making process, then it will take very, very long time to finalize the policies. However, if the policies decided by the introduction of such a governance system, then no social conflict when those policies are being launched, because in the process of policy development, many different social groups, they agreed about the policies. That means such a governance system has a function to internalize the social conflict which will appear in the process of launching policies. Therefore, the purpose of introducing governance system is less social conflict in the process of implementing policies through internalization of the social conflict in advance. This means the social consensus. Then, and when we can have a look at the many social participants. They are the potential participants in the governance system. For example, expert, civil organization, resident stakeholders. All right. Then we need to analyze the policy effectiveness. So, for example, if we develop 10 policies, then all policies requires lots of money to implement. Therefore, national government or the local government, they are faced with they do not have enough financial conditions to launch all of the policies. So it is inevitable for selecting important policies to launch, even though we have a wide range of policies. So in order to decide the final policy to be launched, we need to analyze the efficiency analysis of financial investment. So this is an example I have done for the development of climate change policies in Jeju Province, South Korea. This is an example. For example, then planting tree in the mountain, 6,500 hectares. All right. Then it required about 73 million in US dollar. Then we can estimate how much CO2 we can reduce through this project. Then about 38,000 tons. Then we can estimate the budget for reducing 1 ton through the planting tree, 2,430 US dollars. Then supply of clean energy. This amount of budget are required. And then the reduction quantity, this amount. Then at least 460 US dollar for reducing 1 ton through the policy supplying clean energy. Like this, if we selected 100 policies through such a governance system, then we analyzed 100 policies in terms of its efficiency analysis. Then we can select the important 50 or 30 within the availability of my financial condition. Therefore, this the analyzing policy effectiveness is has a function, a guide for decision of policy priority. The important stage to as a desirable approach to establishing of environmental climate change policy. Then next, effectively analysis of all. This one can be done. This analysis can be done policy by policy. Okay. However, after launching all the policies as a whole set, we also have to analyze the effectiveness. Effectiveness. For example, okay, economic development. Yes, then automatically the increase the CO2 is emitted. However, no economic development, this is related to economic stagnation. Automatically, CO2 emission will be reduced. All right. So every country or local government promotes economic development and increase and the CO2 emission increase. All right. Then, if economic is development, but the emission of CO2 is not increased, this is really the way to sustainable development. So I have to analyze comparatively among 5 countries: UK, USA, Australia, Japan, and Korea, using 10 years time series data regarding their policies and their emission of CO2, like that, using this model. Then, for example, the 5 countries, they enjoyed economic development during the past 10 years. However, UK decreased, even though economic is developed. However, CO2 emission was decreased. So UK is on the way to sustainable development. However, CO2 is increased. That means energy intensity. Here, again, we have 2 different ways. One is the improvement in energy efficiency. The other one is energy elasticity. So USA, Australia enjoys this way. Energy intense, even though CO2 emission increased, however, the energy intensity decreased. This is the way to improvement in energy efficiency. However, energy intensity increased, Japan and Korea. So the 5 countries has been promoted to different way. So the major function of effective analysis of all policies as a whole set is a guide for identifying what way the policies already launched should be modified and or supplemented. Okay, then so as I have emphasized, at least we should have 4 steps as the desirable approach to establishment of climate change policy. However, even though we develop such a beautiful process, however, the national government or the local government, they must build their capacity in order to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of their policies to be launched. So their internal capacity can be classified into 2 categories. One is internal capacity building. The other one is external capacity building. For the case of internal capacity building, as we know, all policies require a lot of money to launch. Therefore, without financial capacity, we cannot do anything. So, as the internal capacity building, the national or local government should increase their financial capacity. Also, all policies are required very high level of advanced technology. So without the availability of technology, we cannot do anything. Therefore, we need to develop advanced technology as the internal capacity building. Also, as I have said before, we need social consensus. Governmental policy it is the basic and most responsible one. However, government policy is not good enough by alone without the social consensus among the social group, for example, commercial enterprise, civil organization, even mass media and citizens. The policy cannot be effective. Then at the internal capacity building, in terms of long points of view, we need to change in current socio-economic system to a new one. For example, economic sector, production distribution market system should be restructured. Citizens, their lifestyle, purchase consumption behavior also should be changed to environmental friendly behavior. And the cultural ethos of consumerism should be moved to environmentalism. For example, consumerism, this one is we consume much more than we need at the moment, okay? Then we have to, such a cultural ethos should be transformed environmentalism, which is defined that we consume as much as we need, not much more than we need. This is a change in current socio-economic system to a new one. This one is the internal capacity. External capacity also important because climate change is a global environmental problem. Therefore, even though, for example, Korea can control the climate change very well, that does not mean Korea will have no climate change. Every important pollutions are flying from China. Therefore, the global environmental program. So we need establishment of cooperative network with domestic, local, national government, and or overseas countries for sharing mutual understanding on the seriousness of climate change and necessity of collaborative response like that. Then information exchange and the collaborative activities or the covering mutual personal exchange of administrative or professional staffs, collaborative research like that. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention.